Hey guys, it's Tombox. Welcome to MST.TV, and I'm definitely not possessed by some sort of demon. That is gonna be your nightmare. The rest of your life. So we are doing the ultimate counter guide today for February 2020, so make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, hit subscribe, ding notification bell, and if you want to help support this channel, check out the Patreon link down in the description below. It will really ease some of my biggest worries in the future, especially with a big wedding bill coming in the future, so that kind of support really helps out, and I can make more content like this without sacrificing too much of my health in the future. So appreciate you guys. But yes, we are doing the ultimate counter guide for February 2020. I have to pick 7 decks, so I picked the 7 that were probably the more played, more interesting decks in my opinion. If I don't cover your deck, Subterra is not on this list. I'm just saying right now, if there's an anti-meta matchup that's kind of closer in here, a control-based matchup, then the counters are relatively similar. All right, guys. A little bit of a different take. So typically I would do 1 page of Handtrap, 1 page of Tech, and 1 page of Floodgate. Well, this time around I'm going to be doing 2 pages of Tech just because there's so much that people can use these days. And I know that a lot of cards are pretty expensive, so I decided to put a little bit more in terms of the alternatives that you guys can try out. So thumbs up to that, and let's just jump into how to destroy the deck that you guys are playing. Let's kick it off with the roster. I don't want this video to go on too long, so starting off with Shadow Invoke. They've been doing really well recently, and they've been recently released, and I think people want to care about how to counter them a bit more. We have Time Thieves Lunalight, we have Spiral, of course, Heroes also being one of the more annoying decks of the format, also one of the pricier decks, and nothing feels better than making someone that paid a lot of money for their deck to feel absolutely like trash. And there's Salamangreats because they're still doing relatively well, and they're the budget deck of the format, I suppose. We have Rockets, and for control, we have Altergeist. Although some of the Altergeist counters are very similar to the Subterra counters, so we can kind of group them together. We'll slightly talk about Subterra along the way, so you know I didn't completely leave them out. All right, and for our Handtrap lineup, we've got Droll, Valor / Impermanence. I think I'm going to talk more about Impermanence because Impermanence is definitely way better than Valor this format. And we've got DD Crow and Call by the Grave, Psyframe Gamma, Smashy Rock, and Ashe Blossom Joyous Spring. These are the ones I want to talk about because these are the ones that are most frequently played. Droll has been put back into the format thanks to the banning of Thunder Dragon Colossus, and a lot of these search-heavy decks that could not play because of Colossus have also resurfaced, and a lot of them are taking top spots. Let's start with the Shadow Invoked. They have a lot of starting points with their search. They can search from Terraforming adding Meltdown, Meltdown adding Alistair, Alistair adding Invocation, or it could come from the form of Hedgehog or Beast, drawing or adding cards to your hand. Ultimately, they do a lot of searching, and you're able to turn them off from getting additional monsters onto the field. So it's pretty good against that deck. Then there's Lunalight Time Thieves. I don't know how I feel about this card in particular for this matchup because Yellow Marten would probably get you the first search of the Serenade Dance, and you can drill them there. If you drill them there, that means they won't be able to use their Raid Raptor, and they can't get the free search of the Zephyros. There's a lot of other cards that can technically search as well as like do other plays, like the Time Thief cards, because they play a bunch of Time Thief cards. Some of them also have search effects that you can also use to kind of use drill to kind of cut them off. That's probably one of the better ways to do it. Spiral, let's just say this is one of the reasons why we have to main deck Drone Lockbird, is because Spiral's a thing and they get infinite search. So through their first search, you can just kind of shut them off. They have not like hard once per turn kind of deal. As for heroes have a ton of cards that do searching that you can kind of cut off. They have Elemental Hero Stratos, they have a Dusted Gold, Rhoda, Cross Crusader, Vion, Shadow Mist. Just turning it off actually cuts off a lot of monster resources, so I still find it very effective, and their boards do end weaker. Salamangreats, they start with Debug, they could use Mining, Buffalo, I guess I already mentioned Mining because doubled up on the Mining right there, but yeah, they have a lot of options when it comes to searching. And remember, they can't go into the Mirage Stallier, so they're not really directly summoning out of the deck anymore per se, but they do find ways to get additional resources, and that's through drawing or searching, and it is effective enough to kind of turn off some of their cards. I still think it's pretty good. As for Rockets, oh my god, Rockets have a huge list of cards that do searches, but I think the card that will kick it off 90% of the time would be Striker Dragon or Seyfert. If Seyfert or Striker Dragon kicks off, you should draw them. Don't let them get the field spells. Don't let them get any further than they have. Like Romulus is another one that could potentially trigger if their hand is rather awkward. Black and White Dragon would fetch each other, and that's an option right there. Absolute fetches a search as well. Now, Drone Lockbird is not very good against Altergeist, or it's good against Subterror to some degree because it could turn off Guru from adding additional cards, but it can typically get negated by the Fiendus. But as for Altergeist, they'll just draw 2 cards for Extravagance, and more or less, they don't care about searching anymore. They set directly from the deck, and I guess that they can search with spoofing, but that would be the only thing that they search for. Then there's Impermanence / Veiler. I think we're going to be talking about Impermanence a bit more. Anything that applies to Impermanence doesn't necessarily apply to Veiler. Now, Winda is a monster you want to turn off on your own turn so that you disable her monster locking floodgate so you can special summon more than once per turn. And Appaloosa, and you don't really have to worry about the Mecha but negating it because the Shaddoll deck typically does not run more than 1 trap. So yeah, you can kind of completely bypass that. As for Time Thief, when they make their first Time Thief and they activate the effect to banish itself out of the extra monster zone, you can go ahead and use Impermanence there so they eat up their own extra monster zone. And that's pretty good. That's pretty fun because they don't really have a detaching cost, so he's kind of stuck there with all the material still attached. And you can also use it to hit the Raid Raptor. Remember, yeah, the Kaleido Chick sends stuff as cost, so there's no real reason to use Imperm on it because it'll send anyway. It's kind of like Magician's Soul. Like, it seems like more and more of these cards these days are moving in that direction. Not very fun for all of us. And then there is Dugaris, which they detach to. If they spend the material to make a Dugaris, their hand must be kind of bad. Don't let them get the draw too. Just Veiler them, Imperm them. It's worth it. As for Spiral, typically you can't really use Veiler or Imperm if they have the Spiral Resort up because Resort will block you, but there are alternative monsters that you can still hit, such as Appaloosa. You can turn off a 2 or 3 material Appaloosa, or use it to bait out the Tri-Gate Wizard. They have to make a choice. Do they want to keep the Tri-Gate Tri-Negate, or do they want to, per se, keep the double or triple monster effect negation from the Appaloosa? That's up to them to choose. Typically, if I was them, if they let it go through, the Appaloosa's at 0, and if you can actually swing into the Appaloosa and deal massive damage, that's probably what you should do. Next up, Heroes. I find that negating anything on the hero board, the most effective thing would be the Increase. Increase leads to a free summon that comes straight from the deck to the Vion, and it just leads to one thing after another. You get this butterfly effect of all these cards coming onto the field, and I feel like Increase is the one dude that kind of sets it all up, and I find him to be very annoying. So yeah, Increase seems to be the linchpin play for me. I know that you can also hit Ferris to prevent the Increase from coming out. Sure, that's another option, but if we're talking about Imperm / Veiler, we'll hit the... I'm personally hitting the Increase for now, and you guys can tell me if that is the correct play or not, or if there's another better option. Maybe I should just break their board. We'll talk about that in the text. Then we go into Salamangreats. Salamangreats, I really don't know what I'm hitting. I guess everyone still makes Abyss Dweller, so you can hold on to your Imperm if you're going to be playing a Grave-centric deck. Hit that Dweller that they are 90% of the time going to summon for this format because there's so much Grave-centric decks these days. Or you can hit the Sunlight Wolf, preventing them from adding back some of the things that they sent to the graveyard, namely the Salamangreat Rage. I don't like them popping my cards, and leaving that card in the graveyard makes it a little bit more secure. I don't mind dealing with negation. There's a lot of decks that are building big chains anyway, so that the direct negation of the last element or the last item in the chain link doesn't really bother me as much. Rockets, hit LP, hit the Seyfert opening. Don't let them get free stuff. Don't let them set up their play. They summon out Seyfert because they want to add a white or black dragon just so that they can keep pushing forward, make their guard dragon combo. You can stop it right there. Yeah, it's quite effective because I played the deck and that stuns a lot. Altergeist, you can't really stop them. Once they get protocol up, it's kind of over. Our third hand trap, DD Crow, and by association, Call by the Grave. Of course, Call by the Grave have a little bit more of utility, but when it comes to hand trapping, banishing from the graveyard is right now really, really hot because a lot of these decks, I would say 90% of the decks we're talking about here, they require the graveyard, and they special summon from the graveyard. They target stuff from the graveyard. Just so much going on, recycling stuff from the graveyard. So in terms of Invoke Shaddolls, do they play with the graveyard? Yes, they do. Typically, Call by the Grave would be a much more effective card against them, but DD Crow is no slouch either. You can use it to banish off whatever that Contract's trying to bring out, and especially with the type of combos that they're playing right now, they're throwing cards into the graveyard only for them to link it off with Contract, getting themselves basically an indirect Rhoda for any card in their deck that's related to Shaddol, namely Shaddol Fusion and El Shaddol Fusion. Crowing those cards feels really, really good because it cuts their combo short a lot. And you can also use Call by the Grave on Contract, but beware of Aerial that can revive that construct. Next, Luna Lights. Typically, you want to hit the Yellow Martin. You don't want them to be able to bounce back their Soul Tigers, getting additional free revivals from the graveyard, and that's a pretty big thing. I get that you can also potentially hit the Tiger target, but remember, Yellow Martin can bounce back, and that's why they get to recycle their Soul Tiger multiple times. It does get a little annoying, but I guess the first thing that they try to revive with Soul Tiger would be the thing that you would banish, and then that could completely cut their turn short. But that deck has a lot of extenders as well, so I don't really feel too comfortable about that. Yellow Martin seems like the safer play to go. Then there is Spirals. Now for Spirals, in the early play, hit their master plan before they make their barricade board blocker. Once you hit their first master plan because they shoved it into the graveyard, it's basically over. As long as they don't have the trap card in the graveyard just yet. If they have the trap card in the graveyard, wait for the trap card activation and then chain your card. Remember, Spiral Mission Rescue is technically a quick effect. It's a spell speed 2. It can chain onto your other things. So if you try to preemptively Crow, which we've seen on a couple live matches already, boom, get wasted, lose your Crow, they get their master plan, they lost nothing. So time it right, or hit the quick fix. If they are desperate for the quick fix, or they just threw a card out for the quick fix and they need the quick fix to come back, especially when they left the level 1 on the field and they want to recycle it one more time, get rid of that quick fix. That's a pretty decent option for you as well. And then there are heroes. Heroes get rid of the malicious. There's not a lot of stuff that you can really hit for heroes when it comes to DD Crow. Call by the Grave, on the other hand, is a little bit more effective at negating the stuff that's activating once they hit the graveyard. Namely, I'm looking at Shadow Mist is one of the potential. I think you can also hit stuff like Solid Soldier, Liquid Soldier, just all the soldiers. And but I think Malicious probably would be the more effective one because Cross Crusader can summon it back onto the field, which is a pretty big deal. And then there is Salamangreat. There's the Jack Jackal, and there's the Trap that they can fetch back. And whatever extender that they may be pushing off from the graveyard, they could be using a Spinny, they could be fetching back a Gazelle. You can try to minimize, or whatever trap they are. I guess I already mentioned the trap, but hitting the trap is also pretty effective, making your turn a little bit easier to play with. For Rockets, I don't really know what you want to hit there, because it's like such a big pool of dragons and most of the stuff happens on the field. But if you do want to hit something, and if they are playing it, hit Galactic Spiral Dragon. That monster is a beast. It just keeps coming back, and it is the card that keeps on. It's like Gizmek for dragons almost, and turns everything to level 8. It gives them access to Sanafon, gives them access to Dingyuzu. I just don't like dealing with it. Any of my opponents that had to deal with it hates it, and they can also use that as a card to go into BLS. It's not very fun. Another thing you can potentially hit would be the World Legacy Guard Dragon target. If you hit that, it completely wastes one of their cards, so it more or less fizzles in the long run. As for Alter guys, there's nothing really good to Crow. Maybe you can Crow Multi-Faker. That's maybe one monster that you want to hit the Crow with, or Call by the Grave, since that's a one copy. And that kind of sums up for Call by the Grave. Yeah, it's pretty effective against all matchups, and I guess Spirals get the free search for the Crow, so naturally they'll have 1 or 2 Crows in their main deck. Just so you guys know that this section is the only part that's more thorough, because if you're talking about hand traps, it's best to know that what you're hitting with those hand traps are actually effective, because misplaying hand traps is one of the biggest things that differentiate an okay player versus a good player, or a good player versus a great player. So anyways, on to Gamma. Gamma against Shaddol Invoked. Typically, no, they're not very effective against them, simply because they build really big chains, similar to Danger Thunder Dragons, and they build like a chain of 4 or 5, and all the things you want to negate would be like chain link 1, 2, and 3, and the last one is just there to kind of cover all grounds, so not very effective. However, you can still turn off an Appaloosa. Remember, Appaloosa does not destroy your Gamma, so you can keep activating Gamma, and Gamma just into Gamma, and just in Gamma you can burn out all of the Appaloosa. But the smart thing that for anyone playing Appaloosa is that you activate another effect, and then they activate Gamma. You let their Gamma summon out, and now they can't activate Gamma anymore. So there, win-win for you. You just have to give up one of your effects so that you can maintain your Appaloosa negation on your own turn. That's the tip. That's how I've been surviving these Gamma plays. I'm like, up for just negate. I'll just make a different play, just extend differently. A lot of decks have different types of extensions. Luna Lights, I really don't know what to hit here. So guys, leave a comment down in the comment section if Gamma's worth it. I'm right now not sure if I should be hitting the initial Kaleido trick just to put it in the graveyard, because if they have an extender, now my opponents have extended past that. They go Jackalope, summon out like a level 4, and then they go ahead and make Time Thief dude anyway. A bit harsh on that part for me. And the other thing is you can also use it to hit the Time Thief. That's like the other guy I kind of hit, just so that things don't get sent to the graveyard by a card effect, namely the Yellow Martin. They don't get the search, and they just kind of end it right there. So I don't know if that's the most effective. I know there are ways to kind of bypass it. As for spirals, hit their Appaloosa, just keep on sniping it until it just runs out of negation, so that when you go out to your turn, they only have a sleeper and if they went for Trigate. But I feel like Trigate's not as effective. If the people want to deal with Shadow Invoke, they should probably go for the Griffin and go for the anti-spell fragrance, because that hurts a little more in my opinion. Yeah, and then there are heroes. Heroes just kill Ferris and Increase. Just don't let the Increase play go off. Once Increase kicks off, it's just you just lose. I think it's been very difficult for me to win against anyone that's set up the Increase play successfully. So it's like those combos, pretty big stuff, pretty big fusions, and I know they're more or less like going second deck. And being able to stun them out feels pretty good. And Gamma's not bad going first, protecting you against some of the things, especially if you play spells. Salamangreat, you don't kill their monster because they get protection from Bailings most of the time. I don't think Gamma is overall that effective. They can just prevent one additional monster. But the deck has so many ways to kind of put monsters onto the field, I don't think is that great. I think they're just better options overall, because Salamangreat is a pretty well-known matchup already, and the alternatives just seem a lot better. And then there is Rockets. Rockets, they also make Appaloosa, so you can kind of grind out their Appaloosa. But instead, probably want to hit the LP or the Romulus. Don't let them get the Dragon Ravine. With the Dragon Ravine, they'll set up just about anything with a safer play. Kind of cutting them off of that resource. If they don't go to Romulus, that means they probably already have the Dragon Ravine anyway. That's like a really, really big tell. And as for Altergeist, well, I can't really say too much about Altergeist. It's not that effective against them. You can use it to hit off their Multi-Faker if they're not ready, but Multi-Faker typically will only activate after a trap, so I'm not sure if you can even use Gamma on that sense, that if you already have a monster on the field and they use a trap against you, then Gamma's kind of a bit of a dud, so I don't think it's that great. Okay, for Smashy Rock Nibiru versus Shadow Invoked, there are multiple things that can stop you. First of all, Winda. If Winda's already on the field, you cannot activate Nibiru. However, if they just try to chain and use like an El Shaddai fusion to put out a Winda, yeah, Smashy Rock will still tribute it, because you have to resolve as much as possible at that point if you're already activated within that chain. And you can also get stopped by an Appaloosa, and you can also get stopped by a Mechaba. There's just so many things that deck can stop you with, so you can find the right timing. If you find the right timing, completely smash their board, it will lead to a win, because they burn out a lot of resources when they set up their combo. Then there is Lunalight Time Thieves. Yeah, you can use it against them, but they'll probably keep a Redoer at the end, because Redoer summon happens pretty early on before Nibiru's activation can be met. So yeah, that's pretty good. Spirals, on the other hand, I put an X here. You guys might not agree, like, oh yeah, I can definitely hit them pretty hard. The problem with Spirals is they're so effective at dealing against Nibiru that the moment that you are able to activate Nibiru, they would have already grabbed themselves 2 to 3 extensions to bypass that, and since you burned a card in your hand, that means the matchup in terms of game state has been simplified at least by 1 card on your end, and they have a pretty fat token that if they can still build Sleeper, if they can still build 1 more negation against you, you're going to be dealing with a fat token plus the sleeper stuff. It's not very fun. I use it against my opponent all the time. Feels really good. Hero wise, you can smash the whole board, no problems. They don't like dealing with Nibiru, let's just say that. Salamangreat also is pretty effective against, because you can kill all their linked monsters, turning off most of their back row, and you also kill the Dweller, which is one of the bigger parts, especially if you play the Graveyard. Rockets have no real counters against them unless they open with 4 monsters, or rather 3 monsters plus the rocket, or not rocket, the World Chalice Guard Dragon. They can actually set up the Appaloosa first and then revive their card. Yeah, they can still set up an anti-Nibiru board, and once they get that whole board up, Nibiru is pretty useless. And as for Altergeist, they don't summon that much. So what about the Ghost Girls? Are the Ghost Girls even effective? It's not bad against Shaddoll and Vogue. I'm just gonna talk about Ashe because all the other Ghost Girls, I guess Ghost Belle is pretty decent and Ghost Ogre is also okay. But let's just only talk about Ashe for this one because Ashe is the most popular hand trap of them all. It's pretty good against Shaddoll Fusion. It's pretty good against Meltdown. It's also decent to use against Wendy. But in any case, if you've built a board, if you establish any kind of field that uses the extra deck, hold on to your Ashe because you need it for Shaddoll Fusion. If Shaddoll Fusion resolves, you will lose the game immediately. That one Shaddoll Fusion can lead to it's almost like a 1-card combo, and you just die. You'll go into a Boral Sword and it's over. And then there's also Luna Lights. I don't know how I feel about this. You can just negate 1 card that searches, but then Kaleido Chick has a cost to send stuff to the graveyard. In your entire setup, if you already have Soul Tiger, you will still build a decent board through the entire Ashe negation. It's just almost irrelevant at that point. As for Spirals, you can stop the Magician's Soul from drawing additional cards, minimizing their resources so that it is a more manageable matchup once the board is broken. In fact, they should just lose if you break their board. You can stop them from adding Sleeper, like you can deny them from their Resort. Resort is always going to be able to happen because of the Brigade Borg blocker that is blocking the chain from you to negate the Master Plan being sent to grave. So you can do the next best thing, which is to block the Sleeper. However, they have another card that also offers a search, which is Double Helix, which makes it another option you can potentially use. Then for heroes, hit the Increase. Just don't let Increase summon from the deck. It's such a big problem. Don't let them like play with malicious. You can actually even hit the malicious too. Just remember that Ashe can get called by the grave, so everything here is reliant on they're not getting completely shut out. And then there is against Salamangreat. Personally, you can hit the Signet Mining because taking away a monster that is Cybers of generic any purpose typically is pretty good for them. So that's probably one of the only things that would really hit. You can hit their Lady Debug, but then hitting stuff in Salamangreat is like kind of just only like kind of slapping them on the wrist. It doesn't really hurt them effectively because they can always turn their monster into say a Baelings. Baelings will search and they'll just do their own thing overall and keep comboing. It doesn't really matter. That means they can bait out your hand traps. Rockets, on the other hand, do suffer from Ashe. In fact, they have a huge list of cards that does effectively cut their plays short. First of all, there is Romulus. Romulus, if you stop Romulus from adding the field spell, it cuts them off from 2 cards, which is a pretty big deal. 1 card they want to put in the graveyard. The other card probably has a grave effect that they're about to send. Black and White Dragon getting cut off, which can prevent a Guard Dragon combo. Absolrouter can prevent them from adding one of those rocket monsters. Striker Dragon is probably the card that you really want to hit. Hitting Striker Dragon matters a lot because it adds Boot Sector Launch, and Boot Sector Launch puts 2 more monsters on the field, or rather, if they're behind and they set up the graveyard already, that Boot Sector Launch is now a Soul Charge that's searchable. So just keep that in mind. And another card you can hit is obviously LP. As for the Altergeist side, there's actually 2 cards you can hit, although I only put down 1. The first one is Meluseek. When it's sent to the graveyard, you can fetch whatever card. You can Ashe that one to prevent them from adding their Multi-Faker or adding their Conquery. And another card you can hit would be the Personal Spoofing, which has a cost, so it becomes a 1-for-1 trade. But eventually, you still have to get rid of that Personal Spoofing. But that kind of covers all the hand traps. All right, that's as thorough as I'm gonna get for some of these. Leave a comment down in the comment section if you have better targets for some of these hand traps, or if there's another hand trap that you are currently playing. I would like to hear about that as well. Anyways, moving on to the techs. Okay, for tech lineup number 1, we have Dark Ruler No More, probably one of the most effective cards for this format. Lightning Storm, one of the most popular side deck card of the format. Mind Control, even though it's semi-limited, it's still pretty popular. Sphere Mode, Scythe, and Evenly. So starting off with the Shaddolls Dark Ruler No More completely cripples your board. You don't play real back row. The only real back row you can kind of just follow up with is make a Winda just in case your entire board got turned off. And that's really about it. But if you don't set it up so that you can actually make a Winda, that's on you. So it's bad that you got Dark Ruler No More, but it's not too bad. If you already left the window on board, then that's too bad for you. That actually really hurts. Then for Lunar Lights, Dark Ruler No More, well, the board is, you're a monster-centric board as well, so you get crippled. Spirals, once you get hit by that, the game's basically over, unless you have Solemn Judgment. Side Solemn Judgments to kind of stop Dark Ruler No More. Heroes, same thing. You're reliant on everything, but the Absolute Zero will still destroy everything on the field if you had to go first. And yeah, that's about it. As for Salamangreats, you can turn off their board, but it doesn't effectively do anything. They're more controlled from the back row. Yeah, that's really about it. As for Rockets, Rockets is again a board building deck, so it does hurt. But Rockets, if they start their play with a Erratic Seal, even through Dark Ruler No More, you can still summon a monster from the deck. So you can summon a Morphage Goliath just to be like, ha, you can't summon from your extra deck. Extra deck locking is the best. And Altergeist, they don't care because they play back row. They don't care about monsters. Next, Lightning Storm. All right, the newest feature. Is it good? Against Shaddoll's, probably not. And it's because Winda cannot be destroyed by a card effect. You can effectively negate it because it's a spell, and Mechaba is just available for you. Appaloosa will just deal with the rest of it. So no, Lightning Storm is not very good. And part of the combo is to add a spell card, add an invocation for that Mechaba so that it can negate something. Then there is Lunalight Time Thieves, hitting them with a Lightning Storm. It's actually not that bad. If you activate Lightning Storm and instead of hitting back or hit monsters, it's interesting to say the least, because I don't think they're going to be putting stuff in defense mode, maybe except for Perpetua, but you can take out some of the problem. You can take out the IP Masquerena, you can take out maybe the Redoer, or at least bait the Redoer so that the game state on the field becomes a little bit more simplified, and that's less interaction for your opponent to play with. But most likely what's going to happen is that if you choose to Lightning Storm them, they're going to activate IP Masquerena and perhaps go into an Appaloosa, but now that you're only dealing with one Appaloosa rather than the IP Masquerena potentially going to Unicorn and disrupting your play even harder. Because Appaloosa is a little bit easier. You just force one card, summon a card, and run it over. So it's much easier to deal with. I'm actually okay with that. Lightning Storm for against Spirals is just a bait and it doesn't kill too much. They can build boards with Cerberus to protect their entire field. Not as common, but it is something that people are doing more often now because Lightning Storm is a thing, and I guess they also have Sleeper that can't get killed, so that's probably why. Against Heroes, it's not bad. You'll still leave a Malicious Bane on the field, but you're not dealing with the Mask Hero Dark Laws. You're not dealing with the Absolute Zero that's gonna nuke your board, so it's pretty good. It's actually not that bad. And then there is Salamangreat, which is you're just baiting out the Bailings. That's all I can really say. You can bait out the Bailings and then activate another card, and that's GG basically. Against Rockets, I don't find it very good against Rockets because personally I'm playing, well, this is just my personal perspective, but I'm playing rank 8s in there, and once you get the gears out, Lightning Storm is kind of pathetic. And then there is Altergeist, which is actually extremely effective because you can activate Lightning Storm and they'll either lose 4,000 life points or they'll just die because they have to use a Solemn Judgment to protect all the back row, and without the back row it feels really bad. Next, Mind Control. Mind Control you can use as bait to take out the Appaloosa, take the Winda, or yeah, just bait out some stuff so that you can actually get other activations to go through. Against Lunalights, not that great because it can just chain and just completely dodge that Mind Control, and yeah, it's too bad. That's too bad for all of us. Spirals, it's a little bit harder to hit them, but you can bait out the other side of the field, which is the non-spiral monsters, because you're still targeted. You can still target them, and you just activate it, target the Appaloosa, and they'll be forced to use Trigate Wizard. And then if they don't have any effective ways to hold on to the control they have, then it's over. As for Heroes, it's not enough to break the entire board. They leave some of the big hero boards are just mind-numbingly devastating. Like, so many interactions. Oh, they got double Dark Lot, stuff like that. It's just not enough. Although taking a Dark Lot does feel very good. Very, very good. Next, Salamangreat. It's effective bait and more effective than most because you can take away their Link monster. Once you take away the Link monster, oof, that's it. The back rows get turned off, so that's why it's more effective for Salamangrates. Rockets, it's not good enough. They can get rid of their own monster with Erratic Seal. They can negate it. They can just make really annoying monsters, and if you use mind control, you take it, but you don't really get to attack with it, so you're not winning the game with it. And against Altergeist, who cares? Because they are, I guess, an anti-meta deck, or rather a control matchup. Then we have Sphere Mode. Sphere Mode is better, I would say, but it does eat up your normal summon, and there's also Lava Golem. Against Invoked, it's good. Against Lunalight, it's good because they have IP Masquerena, Time Thief, Perpetua, and they have Redoer. Just serve them sunny side up, and it's over. Well, at least that field is over. Spirals, they finish with such a big board. Take away their Sleeper, take away their Appaloosa, and take away their Trigate, and that's more or less enough to kind of finish them off because they only have a mid-range deck after that. Heroes, yeah, you can break their board pretty easily with whatever that they leave on the field. Salamangreat, it's not good. Well, it depends. They might not have enough monsters. They might just finish with 2, and then you can't Sphere Mode. But you can still Lava Golem them. It's still worth it. Absolutely still worth it. Rockets, yeah, Rockets finish with 3 monsters, typically. You can just Sphere Mode them, and they will die. It's over. And then there's Altergeist, which will never put up 3 monsters unless they have to. So, yeah, not very effective. Scythe, really good. Shut out, shut out, shut out. So, shut out Invoke, shut out. Lunalight, shut out. Spiral, shut out. Heroes, shut out. Salamangreat, kind of a shut out, but they can still kind of linger there. And Rockets, it's a shut out. Altergeist, they don't care. What is a Scythe? They don't know. They'll never see the light of day. And then for Evenly Match is not too bad. It's more like a card that you have to pair with another one right now because of the amount of negations available right now. So Evenly Match against Shadow Invoked, yeah, it's not bad because it doesn't trigger Construct. And even with Mechabot, they don't run enough traps for them to negate with it. So board's basically broken. I don't know what they're going to keep. Are they going to keep the Appaloosa? Or are they going to keep the Winda? 90% of the time, according to Team Samurai X1, they're going to keep the Winda so that it locks them out of special summons. So that's why Evenly Match needs to get paired with something else. Lunalights, I don't know if you want to use it against them. They'll just tag away their Time Thief. They get to keep another card. In other words, they get to keep 2 cards at the very least at the end of the day. So there's probably a better option instead. Next, we have Spiral. Spirals, again, they have an Omni Negate, but once you get rid of the Omni Negate, Evenly Match will crush that matchup pretty badly. Heroes, pretty good. I guess they'll leave the Malicious Bane, and then they'll have to find some way to kind of destroy that or take control of it of some way or form. Salamangrates, Evenly it's okay. They have a counter trap, so it makes it easier on them to kind of negate that. So as we go straight into the battle phase, they're just gonna be like, nah, bro, it's over. You can't evenly me. And as for Rockets, it's pretty bad. Not gonna lie, it's pretty bad. You can add back if you use World Legacy Guard Dragon, the spell card. You just bounce that card back, send your monster to grave, evenly resolve, you'll summon your monster. So you can still kind of bypass it, but your board effectively is broken. And against Altergeist, all that back row, so delicious. And it's gone forever? Wow, that's even better. So yeah, Evenly's pretty good against control-based matchups, as long as you can bait out the Solemn Judgments. Alright, tech page number 2, our lineup is Kaiju, so 1 tribute base remover, Super Poly, Crackdown, Starlight Road, and Solemn Brigade, and even D-Barrier. These are just some of the more affordable options for people, but for Kaiju, against Shadow Invoked, it's okay. You can get rid of one of the problems. For whatever purpose that it is serving, it does a pretty decent job. If you're just removing one dude that's a problem, then this is one of those cards that is effectively one of the ways to turn off Omni Negates if they're on the field. Lunalight's Time Thief, I don't know how I feel about this one. I don't want to give him a monster, and It just somehow doesn't feel enough just to kaiju them. Their board is not reliant on some of these particular card effects or the whatever monster that they leave on the field. Spirals, you can turn off Sleeper, which is a big win. It's really easy to play around the other two. That board, you can get OTK'd by a dinosaur if you're really messed up. Then there is Heroes. You can drop on a Malicious Bane, Salamangre, turn off their Link monster. Rockets is an iffy one. Just don't hit Heretic Seal with it because it's pointless. Hit the Borreload Savage Dragon. Yeah, hit that. And as for Altergeist, it's okay against Altergeist. It's not the greatest, but you can prevent them from using spoofing to protect their cards. Next, Super Poly. Shadow Invoked, yeah, it's really great in the mirror match. And for Lunalights, they run Darks. Spirals, you can hit all of the Spiral, like the Link monsters on the board, but not the Sleepers. So all of Sleeper's friends die while he remains on the field. He's like the last man standing in a horror movie, which I am still definitely not possessed by a demon of some sort. Super Polying a hero board is also pretty fun because most of the monsters that they leave on the field are also dark. Salamangre, they are okay. I'm not sure if you're actually running Violet Chimera. That's up to you. And as for Rockets, it's on or off. If they make a dragon-based board, then you can Super Poly them with Darks. But if they make a variety board, then you're going to die because Super Poly can't be used. So might not be as effective. As for Altergeist, the only thing that you can get hit by a Super Poly with is like when you're playing against a Dark Magician player and they Super Poly your spellcasters to go and do like the Dark Magicians or whatever. Like they just require a spellcaster and your stuff is all spellcasters. What? You can get hit by Super Poly? Preposterous. Next, Crackdown. This is just one that I decided to throw in there because I have it in my side deck for the last little while and it's not gonna lie, it's kind of fun. So yeah, Crackdown against Shadow Invoke, don't worry about it. They're just gonna drop a card into the graveyard with one Shadow Fusion, and it's over. Dragon's gonna pop it, and they get the card back, so it's not very good. Lunalight Time Thieves, this one's a bit of a fun one. I took a Kaleido Chick and ended someone's turn. Because Kaleido Chick is not a summon trigger. Kaleido Chick is an ignition effect, so if you take it before they even got used to it, that means they didn't send a card to the graveyard. Without a card to send to the graveyard, I don't know what you're doing with your turn. You better have 2 extenders to kind of keep you going because you didn't even start your play with the very first card. So Crackdown was pretty effective. Against Spirals, you can't target most of their stuff, so it's kind of pointless. You can take an Appaloosa maybe, but I think it's going to get popped pretty easily by a lot of cards. I'm talking like Tough, Sleeper, Super Agent. They can just pop it. That's why back row isn't very good against Spirals, and they're really good at breaking those boards. Next, Heroes Crackdown. Yeah, because Malicious Bane, you can just take them. Or you can just take away the arrows that your opponent gets with whatever monster they leave on the field. Remember, the Crackdown's more of a going first side, so if you side in going second, you're crazy. Salamangre, you can use it to take away your opponent's cards, especially when they're starting to do some link plays. You just take it, and they have to answer to it. Taking a Sunlight Wolf is pretty ideal, but there are other targets as well. Then there is Rockets. It's okay against them. You can take away the arrows, especially the ones that are about to set up a Guard Dragon play, and just watch the Guard Dragon play not happen. Altergeist, yeah, you can take their monsters and then it becomes a bit of a struggle for them. As long as they don't have personal spoofing, like already active, Crackdown taking some of their cards, they get into a pretty awkward position. Starlight Road is mainly for storms, sleepers, and crazy hero plays. And then there is the Solemn Brigade. People are starting to side them in. Should all invoke? Do you need it? Probably not. You build big enough chain links so that you don't really care. Is it really effective against you? Again, you build big chain links. Solemn can only touch the top card. And Lunalight Time Thieves. This is pretty effective against you, I think, because I guess any deck that really just summons out of the deck, as long as they can use like a cheap Solemn Strike, or if they're using Solemn Judgment, they can also negate the summon of the Kaleido Chick and send it to the grave right away. I'm not sure if that's ideal. I think you can usually wait and just turn off like Soul Tigers and stuff like that. I think that's a bit more worth it just to kind of get rid of that problem. Against Spirals rely on a lot of summoning, and if you kill their like high resource monsters, it's effectively going to end their turn. And I've experienced this multiple times because I've ran into counter traps. I played against like a Satellite, I got hit by an Alpha. I'm like, man, that was like a very important piece of my play, and I did not expect that I couldn't even like interact with it. And yeah, that's pretty brutal. So solemn brigade doing pretty good against heroes. I think for heroes, yeah, they can kind of bypass it for the most part. And like if you pay too much life, like hero monsters aren't exactly low on attack either. They can just kind of OTK you out of nowhere if you decide to pay that much life points. Salamangreat, it's decent. You can prevent them from setting up their play. Same with rockets. Rockets getting their Romulus hit by this hurts. Whenever they go into a Saryuja and you hit them with that hurts a lot. And in fact, it ends the turn because sometimes they leave a Guard Dragon Piston on the field, so when they summon out the Saryuja, they'll just be able to use the effect. And not anymore. And you're also locked into dragons now. And life sucks on your side of the field. And Altergeist. Yes, you can technically use Solemn Brigade against them. You can use it before they turn up their protocol. You can use it to turn off a lot of other problematic cards. D-Barrier, on the other hand, yes, there's at least half of the matchups here that are D-Barrier can be very effective against, and it's almost like the whole Zoo format. If you have D-Barrier or Maxi, you can skip your opponent's turn. Shaddoll Invoked, yeah, you'll skip their turn. Call Fusions, and that's it. That's the end of their line. Lunalight, Time Thieves, Call Exceeds, and I don't know what kind of board you're building, because you exceed like 2 to 3 to 4 times depending on what you do. Against Spirals, not very good because you can't call links, and you're mainly just making link plays. The only thing, if you did side this in accidentally, then you can probably go into I guess you can call Xyz, because they need to overlay for the quick fix, and now you can actually get rid of that quick fix. So there's your silver lining right there, just in case you messed up. Salamangreats, they don't care. No, not enough other types of monsters aside from links. And rockets is a bit of an iffy one. You can almost call Xyz monsters or synchro monsters. I'm not sure if that's even that effective. Then there is Altergeist. They don't care. That's it for techs. All right, does that make sense? Is there any tech I am missing that you guys perhaps are playing? Leave it down in the comments section, and let's finish off with some floodgates. Okay, one card I didn't really talk about is Anti-Spell Fragrance. I think that card should be in here because it's effective against at least a couple matchups here. So if against Shaddoll Invoked, it's pretty good. You're playing solely fusion based. Lunalight Time Thieves turns off Soul Target. You can't activate it because it's a pendulum scale. Spirals, you kind of don't care. Spirals don't really care. Hero, you can't play your fusion spells effectively. Salamangreat, you can't use your spells to search out your cards. Rockets, it's pretty painful when you run so many spell cards. Lots of Graveyard Revival, lots of extenders, but they're all spell cards, including Rocket Launch. And that's a pretty big problem. Altergeist, I guess you guys don't really care. You guys can play it yourself and you just run all traps. So I guess that's one silver lining for you guys. But yeah, anyways, we're going to floodgates. We have There Can Be Only One, Summon Limit, Mystic Mind, Skill Drain, and Abyss Dweller and Vanity's Fiend. I don't know if Abyss Dweller counts as one, but since it shuts out the entire graveyard activation, I'm going to make an exception and include it as a floodgate. It's a floodgate monster. Starting off with There Can Be Only One, Shaddoll Invoke, not very good. Just play a copy of Shaddoll Fusion, find someone to put Squamata into Great Throat Dragon in there, and then There Can Be Only One is no longer the only one. And then there is Lunalight Time Thieves. That one's a bit more of a problem. You play a lot of Beast Warriors, and that puts a limitation. But if you have an extender to go into something else, you are okay. You can actually break it with a Phoenix. Next, Spirals, you have Tough, Super Agent, Sleeper, and your own Phoenix to pop the card. That's not a problem, and you have a lot of different typings. And then Heroes, yeah, this one's a bit more painful. Salamangreat, pretty painful. Rockets, pretty painful. Altergeist, pretty painful. So overall, it's still pretty painful to get hit by. There Can Be Only One. Then we have Summon Limit, the actual true floodgate of summoning for now. Shaddoll Invoked, doesn't matter. The dragon will pop in and they'll just keep going. Lunalight Time Thieves. This one's, yeah, you could. You can't really extend into anything. You need some spell trap removal. You can probably normal summon a card and then get a special summon, and then you overlay the two into like a tornado dragon or something, and you can pop Summon Limit. Cool, that's an option. Then Spirals, doesn't matter. You're just gonna pop it with one of the guys. And yes, you have tough, super agent, sleeper, boom, summon limit gone, easy. And yeah, super agent is just built in to kill back row anyway. For heroes, yeah, it sucks because you can't combo, and without comboing, your board is much weaker. So they probably need some sort of spell trap removal to get rid of summon limit before they can truly shine. Then there is Salamangreat. They can technically pop summon limit, but by the time you get to popping summon limit, it's just like, what's the real point? But yeah, you can use Salamangreat Rage to pop it. Then there's also Rockets. Yeah, that one hurts because Rockets, they rely on special summoning a bit too much, and the deck is so monster heavy that you're not going to be able to draw it out unless you like side in like hard against it. Altergeist, it doesn't really hurt them. They can play it themselves. Mystic Mine. Shaddoll Invoked. They can get stunned, but they also have the ways to negate Mystic Mine through Mechaba. If they have Mechaba, well, goodbye, Mystic Mine. It's going to get banished now. Lunalights, they will probably get stunned out by Mystic Mine unless they are finding a way to kind of shuffle it back to the top with the Time Thief Redoer. But then they'll still have to go into another copy of Mystic Mine anyway, so that part kind of sucks if they don't kill them right away. Spirals, Mystic Mine, yeah, they don't work out, but Spirals can, if Spirals can set up first and you try to drop a Mystic Mine on them, you're just baiting out a card at most, alright? Next, we have Heroes. Mystic Mine hurts. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. They have to find some way to get rid of it early or else they're going to lose. Salamangrates, they don't care as much for Mystic Mine because they can pop it for the most part. Yeah, they just need a Salamangrate Rage to get there. And for Rockets, Mystic Mine sucks. It's just turn skip almost if you get completely locked down. Technically, you can bounce it back to your opponent's hand, but I just don't think that's worth it. I'd rather minimize my board or tribute off some of my own stuff. Dragons, oof, pretty rough. Altergeist, they don't really care. They can get rid of their own monsters with spoofing to add it back into their hand and then let it go to the end phase so that the Mystic Mine will get removed on its own. Okay, and then we have Skill Drain. Can we play this? Do you want to shut out monster effects? I guess you could. If you do it to Shaddoll Invoked, you can turn off their Alistair, you can turn off Construct, you can turn off a lot of things, and effectively this is still a very monster-centric deck, so yeah, if you can play it, why not? Lunalight Time Thieves, most of your effects are cost, so you'll still be able to play, but you're not building big boards anymore. Your Time Thief stuff are kind of stuck on the field without any form of big activations. Spiral, on the other hand, no, it still sucks for them. If you activate this card, it's just going to be an uphill battle. They'll try to pop it as soon as they can get a chance. But they do have some pretty big monsters that they have to use to meet the condition. As for heroes, you skill drain them. They don't get to control their resources as well. It's a little bit more limiting when it comes to limiting. Is that even a word? It's a bit more limiting when it comes to heroes because a lot of the stuff that they activate in the field, they are no longer available. Even Malicious Bane can't really pop any cards in. His protection's kind of gone as well, so it's a bit painful for every aspect of that deck. Salamangreat, you're still using your spells and traps, so I don't think that's that big of a deal. And as for skill drain against Rockets, you can skill drain them the right way or the wrong way. The right way is to make sure that they're not putting up big monsters onto the field. The wrong way is that they're putting a lot of big monsters on the field that they could get to constantly recycle for free. Yeah, it becomes a bit of an issue. Next, they have Dweller. Oh, and Altergeist. They have Protocol. They don't care. And next, we have Dweller. Grave-centric. Hitting Shaddolls, they won't be able to add back stuff with their construct. They will not be able to activate stuff from the graveyard. Overall, it's a big win. I'm talking like the entire Shaddoll core will not be able to activate, and that's pretty big. As for Lunalight Time Thieves, if you use Dweller against them, I don't think if it's even that great. You shut off against, like, I guess a Lunalight Perfume as one card, or Lunalight Serenade Dance as the other, and perhaps a Yellow Martin, and that's about it. It doesn't really do too... I guess it's actually pretty effective. If you think about how many plays you're really stopping with all those cards, that's fine. Spirals, you Dweller them, you shut off all of their spell cards, all their missions, and that hurts. That hurts a lot. Heroes, not too effective, I would say. You might turn off like a Malicious. Cute, I guess. Salamangreats, it was better last format, but this format is like, well, they can kind of extend most of it from their hand, which is okay. But Abyss Dweller, you can also prevent that counter trap from being reset so that it limits what they have on the field. It's pretty good. Dweller was like one of the best monsters against Salamangreat for a very long time. Rockets, it's effective. You're turning off everything in the graveyard. You're turning off Black and White Dragon. You're turning off Erratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. You're turning off a bunch of cards out of Rockets. And Rockets rely on that graveyard pretty heavily. Altergeist doesn't really care. Vanities, effective basically against every single special summon out matchup. Shaddoll Invoke, though, because of the Shaddoll monsters, they can use the flip effect to get rid of Vanities, especially Dragon. You get it? Dragon is very effective at monster removal, spell removal. It's a very well-rounded monster. You just bounce it to your back to the hand, and that's it. You don't have to deal with it anymore. Salamangreats are patient enough to kind of pop it, so they can set Rage and just answer with that. But every other matchup is going to die to Vanities. I've died to Vanities. I think this particular format, I've died to him about 6 times already. That's pretty bad. Yeah, that's why I'm including him in here. You can be really cheesy and set up a board and then tribute summon a Vanities Fiend, and you can just watch someone completely squirm. Of course, it is weak to a Lightning Storm, so there's that. And I think that covers the entire thing, so... And that is all I got for this video, guys. If I missed any sort of counter or some counters you think perhaps are not as effective, leave it down in the comment section below. Everyone wants to learn, and this is kind of a platform for you guys to share it down in the comments. A lot of people do read the comments. You can check out the reply rate. It's going insane these days, so I really appreciate the engagement coming from you guys. Of course, if you guys haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up if you guys enjoyed videos like this one, or if you enjoyed stuff in the past I've been posting. I've been really putting a little bit more effort on a lot of things. I wanted to make sure that 2020 is the year that MST.TV will kind of push to the top, I guess. Well, at least break some records, maybe hit 69,000. That would really be a big thumbs up on my part, and I think I got more crazy content coming up. We're trying to do some skits. I haven't done a live duel in some time now. I really want to push that out, but I'm still coughing, and that's why I am not doing it just yet. Or maybe it's this crazy demon possession that's happening lately. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.